the Lakota Nation people are stepping up and putting out a currency that competes with the United States Federal Reserve currency. So anyways, they're at $17.71 right now, and I really think that that's a good item to be getting into. We also have a fairly good supply of U.S. Eagles. We've got $20, $10 gold pieces. The best buy we have right now in gold bullion related coins are the francs and the British sovereigns. They are currently trading right now at $2.13 and for the French franc and $2.65 for British sovereigns. There's a lot of people out there that still have IRAs sitting in the stock market. You know, even though I don't really like to see people store gold and silver, I still think you're way better off having a gold IRA than you are sitting in the stock market or even in the bank for that matter. So if you're in a position where you're in that market, why don't you move over and take this opportunity to get into gold. Gold went over $900 an ounce, and we're in the summertime. Typically, gold is soft at this time, and it's showing strength, which tells me that there's still problems out there. And obviously, the news says the same. You can listen to Bob Chapman. I mean, the information, I mean, it's just glaring. If people aren't taking time, to prepare for economic problems, it's your own fault if you get caught in this one. I mean, first of all, people that have been buying gold and silver since we've been talking about gold and silver, Joyce, are up over 300% in their portfolio. The people that have been buying in the stock market over the same time period are lucky to have 60% of their value, and may only have 25% of their value that they put into it. So I mean, the swing, the difference between the two is hardly even measurable. I mean, the gold and silver is so much of a better bet. In addition to this, it isn't, it's not, you're never going to see gold and silver filing bankruptcy and going to the United States government asking for a bailout. It just doesn't happen. It's been an asset that's been valuable ever since the Egyptians were on this earth, and even before that time. So, 6,000-year track record in comparison to what we have now in the paper market, I just don't think you can beat it. And so if you're looking at something, if you want something solid in your portfolio, this is a thing to have.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. And again, the Lakota coin is a silver coin, and it sells for $17.71. Now, this is their answer to the Federal Reserve dollars, and they're saying that they're going to just simply stand up to the Federal Reserve, and like they are their own nation, they can have their own currency now. But is that something that, do you know anything in the history of the Lakota Nation? Can they have their own currency?
Well, it's going to be an interesting battle. I mean, of course, what happened to the Liberty dollar? They came in, they confiscated all the coins that were sitting in their vault that were representing the backing of their own paper currency. And one of the things that I haven't seen from the Lakota Nation is they haven't come up with a paper currency yet as a certificate. But I don't think it really. Why would people want that? You really should have the physical. Even when Bernard von Nighthouse was issuing paper certificates, I told him, look, man, don't put people into paper. Get them into the gold. Have them get the gold in their hand and get the real silver in their hand, because that's what holds value. It doesn't matter if they pass a law that says the Lakota Nation can't do this anymore, because the silver that people buy, the silver itself has value. It's way more valuable than some promissory note from any institution.
Now, is Bernard von Nothaus, is he still doing that with the Liberty dollar?
I don't think he is. I think that whole thing fell apart. I know that there's a lawsuit toward to the U.S. government. I mean, I don't know how you ever win that one, but I'm sure the thing about it is that those coins that they sold just shot through the roof. I've seen them trade over $100 a piece on eBay, and I know the Lakota Nation certainly has more of a basis for doing this kind of business than Bernard von Nothaus had, because they are a sovereign nation. I would assume that if the United States government started meddling with their affairs, that it would even be more of an uprising. So, who knows? I mean, I don't know exactly what to expect on this, but I can tell you one thing for sure. It makes me smile when I see a lot of people buying gold or silver. Whether or not they're buying it from me or not isn't really the issue. It's just that they're getting something in their hand that's of real value, where this fiat paper currency that we've been getting from the United States government is just absolutely only as valuable as the people's, as the people of the United States and of the world are willing to accept it as,
That's right.
as a form of wealth, because it in itself is not wealth.
Well, let me give the phone number. I want people to get this Lakota coin. I think this is so cool, ladies and gentlemen. And, I mean, we ought to have these out everywhere and support the Lakota Nation doing this. The phone number to get the Lakota coin is 877-479-81. No, I'm sorry. 800-686-2237. 800-686-2237 to get the Lakota coin. I mean, what even just to have one for your children. I mean, to pass it down, to say, see, here's what they're doing, a teaching item. Show it to your friends. Get the Lakota coin by calling 800-686-2237. And thank you, Ted Anderson, for joining us again today.
Yeah, thanks for having me up, Joyce.
You betcha. We're going to go back to Bob Chapman right now and see what Bob has to say on all of this. But let me open up the phone lines. Those of you who have one of the really hard questions to ask our guest today, Bob Chapman, give us a call, 800-259-9231. We got about 15 minutes here. Or not total, but we've got about a 15-minute time frame that we can take your phone calls at 800-259-9231. Bob, this Lakota Nation coin is kind of a cool idea, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it is. As it's been explained by both you and Ted, it's in the face of the United States government and as an alternative currency, and that's got to upset them really. And it's going to be interesting to see if they try to do anything about it. We just alluded to the problems that the previous firm had, but they were not a Indian nation, so their status was different. What went on with that was nothing but Gestapoism. You know, you didn't like what they were doing, so they just put them out of business. And that happens very, very frequently to people. And you know, I mentioned just before we went to break at the half hour that the government was spying on the people who were innocent civilians who were at these tea parties. And it's the same concept of always being against the people that might say something truthful about what's going on. And, you know, the government is becoming more and more oppressive. And so I think having the coin is a great idea. It's certainly an alternative. And if nothing else, it's really concerning the government. And I bet they're sitting around trying to find a way that they can put them out of business.
Oh, I think this is going to be amazing. If they go after the Indians, well, the Indian Nation, there may be some people that will respond to that. Let's go to Joe in Arkansas. Joe, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. Yeah, to get a little perspective on how bad this flu is, the radio ads that tell you to take your flu shot say that 36,000 people a year die in the United States from regular old garden variety off-the-shelf flu. And so that means about 700 people a week die in the United States just from plain old flu. And if Mexicans die at the same rate from it, that would mean about 250 Mexicans every week, die from just plain old flu. So this thing is going to have to get really bad, I think, to equal the killing rate of just plain old regular flu.
You are making way too much sense. Now, I'd like to know if there's an infectious disease doc in the audience. Come on, somebody from ID or somebody from an intensivist, somebody that can see through this thing, please give us a call. 20 people are sick, nobody admitted to a hospital, but oh my gosh, it's about to happen. I am just appalled that the average person is talking about this at the checkout line at Walmart. Aren't you, Joe?
I haven't heard people really talking about this. If anybody talks about it, I have to bring it up. Seems like people around here, they just won't talk about anything, beyond their immediate personal life unless you bring it up. And even then, they don't want to talk about it. Very few people will talk about any issue beyond, their house, their job, their dogs, their cats, so on like that.
Yeah. Well, we've got a public health emergency in this country, and people aren't even yawning about it. This is amazing. This is amazing. Hey, thank you very much, Joe. You make way too much sense. Be very careful, please. Let's go to Steve. Or anything you'd like to add to that, Bob?
The official figure coming from Mexico City the past week is 103. So they're having a very good week, actually.
Yeah, no kidding. Less than half of.
I don't mean to be tongue-in-cheek on that.
But-
It's the facts. That's the truth.
I know. This is incredible. Let's go to Steve in
And there's
Chicago.
30 million people in that city.
This is just beyond the pale. Let's go to Steve in Chicago. Steve, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead, please.
Bob, I think this is germ warfare. First they started out with tomatoes, and now they're using the flu. But the reason why I called up, you keep talking about the debt, and I think it's an individual problem. If these people can't manage their money for their mortgages, credit cards, or car payments, what we're going to have to do is get everybody a public guardian and give them a weekly allowance, and that way it'll get done. Otherwise, you're creating an accepted status. These people don't have to pay their debts. And one other thing, Bob. Bob, did you see that story about the United States gave a summons to the Russian finance minister, Alexei Kudrin?